What lessons did we learn from the pandemic that we can use in the future for our scouting? Hey, ScouterStan, let's talk a little bit about what we learned from the pandemic. Scouting went through a really hard time. Especially when it comes to Cub Scout pack. A lot of them did not survive the lockdown. That was bad. But now that we're back a year from that, or two, and it is important to think about the lessons that we've learned. Now, for one big point that I'd like to make is that we've learned that if you're not feeling well, you should isolate and stay home. Unfortunately, I don't think businesses have adopted any adaptive measures as far as sick days, and that's unfortunate. A lot of Americans are working paycheck to paycheck. You know, that is a very common thing. It's always been that way. But if they're doing that, being out sick is a financial burden. And as an employer, they should be giving sick days throughout the year. So if they're not feeling well, they can actually stay home. Now, a lot of cynics think that if you do that, there's going to be a lot of people taking those days for other things than what they're intended for. If you have an employee that's like that, then maybe they should find a new career path, because I believe in the Scout law, which is trustworthy. And if they're not, then maybe they should move on. That's just my 2 cents as far as the honesty that is needed in an employer situation. That being what it is. But we didn't learn from that. We didn't add more sick days so that if you're not feeling well, you didn't walk in and get everybody else sick because of financial things that I just talked about. So we need to think about that through our scouting too. So if you are not feeling well, you have cold symptoms, you need to isolate at home. You need to take rest. You need to take whatever medication you need to basically get well again. That is the critical thing. Take your temperature, check your blood pressure, all those kinds of things that you know what you need to do. Eat well, get plenty of rest, that kind of thing. Then when you're able to, when you're feeling better, you can go back to work. And that's true for scouting too. You can go back to the scout meetings and the den meetings and all of the different activities they have. Now, it's a lesson that's hard, and we have to be honest with ourselves and keep those things close at hand. You know, we need to think about them because it is so easy to get lost back into old habits. We need to develop new habits. And if you're not feeling well, this is one of those things that you need to take care of. It's important. It's how you help others at all times. It all goes back to the Scout Oath and the Scout Law. Those things are so intertwined that it's important to keep that in mind. Now, you may have noticed this video is actually put together long before there's any problems with old ScouterStan. I have commitments that I can't get out of and production that gets delayed for whatever reason, or a cough. That's definitely something that occurs, and it's important that you understand. I want to keep that commitment of having a video every week. And this is a video that I put together in case I get sick or something else happens. It may be an issue with a scouter or a friend who passes away. It might be things that were unanticipated that came up suddenly where our production wasn't available, you got to keep in mind it's just ScouterStan. That's it. All recording, all scripting, everything is completely part of this channel. I do not receive subjects from National. Okay, I'm a volunteer, so I want to keep those things going, and in that, I created this video. I want to talk about what we've learned from COVID, and some life lessons that are important, and we need to keep those things current so that if there is an issue, we can at least have a video that's up there, not necessarily holding a space, but giving important information to think about. That is critical to the entire ScouterStan channel. Having a backup not only for the channel, but for your scouting unit. This is a critical thing. You need to think ahead and maybe put some meeting planning put together, especially for Cub Scouts, den leaders, and even packs should have something that can be taken out of the box, kind of a meeting. And it is very important that that's put together so that it's meaningful for those in attendance. Sometimes the leaders cannot be there, so there has to be backups. There has to be someone that can be called on to come in and actually go through the process of giving that meeting. Now in Cub Scouts, it's totally fine to read it right off the card. Write down all of the things they're supposed to work on, or the skit that they're supposed to practice, or the skill that they're trying to learn. It can vary, but every single den leader, every single Cub master needs to have a backup for their meeting. There has to be some way of having that backup come in for one meeting. That is totally important to keep that going in a fruitful way. Now, a lot of the stuff we cover in scouting is what we call evergreen. It lasts all year round. Any time of year, you can pull that emergency meeting out of the bag and do that. When you get into a troop situation, you're dealing with youth. The youth should develop a standalone meeting. Okay, this isn't something that the scoutmaster dictates. This is something the youth should put together. This is a great way to practice. You can use some of those practice skills in that planning. Plan out a meeting. Have all of the things sitting there, and make sure that the senior patrol leader is really putting that together. That's their emergency plan. Okay, if there's something that went on and they're not able to be at that meeting, there is something that they can do. There's an activity, a game, all the different things that you want to have in that meeting. Now, it's important when you're doing the training for the youth. That is your introduction to leadership skills. That is the actual training that the troop does. That would be very easy to use as an example of planning out a meeting. Use that one for your backup. And that is very important. Every single time that training happens, there should be a new backup developed, actually put together as a meeting, a standalone one-time meeting, so that if there is an issue, you can pull one of those up and do them. That's the wonderful thing about it. Senior patrol leader, youth led as far as developing the actual meeting plan. That is part of that training, and it's important to have that so that you can live up to be prepared. Now, before we go any further, I do want to invite you to our monthly meeting. It's on the first Sunday of each month, and it's at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So you're more than welcome to join us and ask questions and just have fun. You know, that's one of those wonderful things about that meeting. I also want to thank everybody on Patreon for their continued support of our channel. And our channel members. You can be a channel member. You hit the join button and join up. There's all kinds of badges and emojis and different things. They even get the videos exclusively for themselves, ad-free, which is an added bonus. And then, of course, if you don't want to join in and do a monthly donation, you could always do a one-time donation by hitting the thanks button. So get involved. I really do appreciate all that you do in scouting and here on the channel. Sometimes there comes up meetings and activities that just eat up all of the production time, and that's one of the reasons that this video is here. That is one of those things. You know, there's a lot of things, a lot of conventions, a lot of meetings, a lot of things that might be even out of town. That's why this video exists. And I'm appreciative of your time, and I want to make sure that you get the message here that it's important to have a backup, have a plan B. That is so very important. As we talked about earlier, it's important that the youth in a troop do that, and that's true for a crew. A crew needs to develop a backup plan. They have the same training every single year for all of their crew officers. That is very important. Also with a ship, there should be an outing or an activity that can be done at a moment's notice. That is something that needs to be developed. That needs to be written down or typed up in a way so that it can actually happen. That's a critical thing. Having that available is important. Making sure that it is not stuck in some electronic world. So it's important that it's not internet-based only. You can have meetings like that and have them sitting there. That's fine. But you need to be able to print them out and put them in a package physically so that they can be brought to the meeting. They could be sitting in the car, and then if something happens where the meeting is a total crash, you can take that out of the car, bring it in, and then open it up, and you've got a meeting in a box, basically, for the youth. That's developed by the youth. So it's going to be fun. Don't worry about that part. It's going to be educational. It's going to be meaningful. That's something that's guided from a leadership standpoint. And it will be good. It'll be something instead of nothing. And that is the critical thing. It would be so easy just to leave static here. And I don't want to do that. That is no. And there's a lot about COVID that we need to learn. Electronics are great. We all became experts on Zoom, right? We went to Zoom. We had meetings on Zoom. We had all that electronic, and we kind of depended on it, and that may be a problem. So it's important that those things can happen if it's needed in an emergency, but it shouldn't be relied on. It shouldn't be the go-to for every kind of emergency. So we need to have those backups, again, available in physical form. So that's the important part, especially for Cub Scouts. You can't make up a popsicle stick if you need it for a craft. You can't do that electronically, right? So it's got to be physical. So that's the key. Keeping it in a physical format that can be pulled out of an envelope or out of a box so that it's there. It may even include a football in there for the troop, okay? If that's the game that you're going to do, you might put a football in that bag or in that box. So very critical to have those available. It's easy to transport too. So keep all of that in mind. Brainstorm. Think about it. Ask your youth to do it. That's another key thing. If you're in a troop, a crew, or Sea Scouts, ask the youth to come up with something like that. They can. Guide them, enable them, have them do the actual thing, and just do a plan. You got to have a backup. Don't rely on Zoom for everything, right? So, I mean, I was in some Zoom meetings that were a little shaky. So, not good. So, but you got to have a backup. And Zoom is not the default. You have to be able to do other things. And that's a critical thing. When we were doing all the lockdowns and stuff, we even did day camp through Zoom. I mean, we did a lot of neat things. We really pushed the envelope as far as handling the isolations and all of that materials and keeping everything settled. And we went through a lot to actually create a very safe environment for the youth and the adults, of course. But that is something that we did, and it was wonderful. But we shouldn't rely on that. That shouldn't be the only way we do day camp. That's not good. We need that interaction. Scout talking to a scout. That interaction is critical. And throughout leadership, you have to have that eye contact. You have to, not through a screen. You have to have that. So keeping that in mind, keeping all of those things in place. So if there is a problem, you can react. That is critical. I say that a lot, don't I? Because it is. That's why. It is always a pleasure talking with you and being with you through the internet. And if you have comments or suggestions, please let me know. Just type them on into the community. We have a great community. We have a lot of people in our community that can help out. I may not know the answer, but I know somebody that's watching the videos that's part of the community probably does. So that being the case, definitely let me know if you need anything, suggestion for a show, anything. Okay? So that is always good. And I appreciate all that you do in scouting. And please keep up that good hard work. And I'll see you on the trail.